tyranny of the majority, our responsibility is to come out and point that out.
You hosted the former PPA boss, the man who was fired by the president clearly because of the work that was done against him. Did you believe that his story was not... Did you believe the majority was being tyrannical against him, for which reason you gave him the platform to do what he did?
No, I didn't give him a platform. I wanted to interrogate him so that my viewers will understand the whole story. That's what we do. We didn't give him platform. We invited him so that we will ventilate the facts. And if you look at the interview, look at the questions that we put to him, you will see that we went out to ventilate the facts so that viewers can now have an opportunity, because often the news is broad. There's so many news items. People hear it in snipers. They hear headlines and all of that. The other responsibility we have on Good Evening Ghana is that all the things that you have heard in snipers, we will bring you the full story so you can make your decision.
Okay.
So that's what we do. That's what we did with this one. We didn't bring him to we are not defense lawyers.
But if you thought that the person was not being treated fairly and you have a platform, when you bring them, why do you interrogate them? Why don't you lead the person in evidence? Because people think that's what you do.
We are not defense lawyers. We are not doing examination in chief. Neither are we doing cross-examination. We are ventilating the matter.
Do you lead your interviewees?
But that's what I'm saying, that we are not doing examination in chief. I'm answering your question. If we lead them on, we'll be doing examination in chief like they do in a trial.
There are views on your Facebook live feed that suggest that what you are doing is just edge a guy on to say ABC. What do you say to that?
They would have to. I mean, the opinions, as they say, everyone has opinion. But people who express that opinion will have to justify it. What we do is neither cross-examination nor examination in chief. It is to bring the person so that we can have the issue told in the full story. So there's no critical question that we don't ask when people like that come on board. And I have to let you know, and viewers also know, that when we are interviewing people, more often than not, we tell them the questions that we're going to ask them.
No, we give them synopsis. We don't tell them the questions.
You can't tell them the questions because it's a live program, but I can tell them questions I'm going to ask them.
You give them synopsis.
No, I tell them questions I'm going to ask them.
What I was taught at the Ghana Institute of Journalism is to share the synopsis, not the questions. Because if you give the person a question, that becomes a commercial paid-for interview, which we do on the City Breakfast Show, where MTN would come with 10 questions, pay for them, and you ask those questions.
You have expressed a very limited opinion on the matter.
Okay.
If you don't give the person the questions, some documents that are relevant will not come to the studio, because at the end of the day, you want your viewers to understand. You have to tell the person, I am going to ask you.
You give questions or areas?
Everything. Synopsis, questions, and areas. There are some that you have to give a specific question. I'm going to ask you that the board meeting that was held on 6 so and so, did the minutes say this? You have to bring the minutes to the studio. If you don't tell him that, he may not bring the minutes.
Why don't you say to the person that would discuss issues around the board meeting or the minutes that you had around this?
Because I want him to be fully prepared for the answer that I want.
You are preparing the person to come and give testimony before you. And
have you read Larry King's book?
I haven't.
Okay, you should read Larry King's book. If you believe Larry King was a good interviewer, you should read Larry King's book.
I have read other people. I don't
find anything wrong with giving an interviewer a question. It doesn't mean you're giving him 10 questions, because I don't prepare with questions for the interview. Those who have worked with me here will tell you, I don't walk into the studio with prepared questions. I just start the interview. And on television, I don't have prepared questions. I start the interview and it flows. But when I'm preparing, I said, look, this guy, we have to ask him this. Tell him. We'll be asking him this question. He has to prepare for it.
When we go for
we don't come on interview to ambush people.
Okay.
And surround them and surprise them. Even in court, you are not allowed to surprise. So we don't bring people on the program so that we will surprise them.
But questions can surprise. Questions in court can surprise people.
If you surprise, the court will underrule it. You don't spring surprises.
Not if you
check the civil procedure rules. You can't spring surprises.
I'm a lawyer, but if
you have lawyers here, ask them. Civil procedure rules. You cannot spring surprises in court.
No, I'm talking about a question, not a document that you are introducing last minute without the judge or the court knowing. Are you saying that
but if
when you are cross-examining someone...
A question will lead to the person being prepared for it, and you don't tell him, and you just spring it on him, and he says, I don't have the documents here. For instance, I interviewed E.T. Mensah recently on the Saglame issue.
Yes.
The interview took another direction because it is a live interview. And then he said to me that I didn't bring it. So I asked him that, can you come on Thursday, so that, because this question has to be answered.
Okay.
Yeah, so if I had known, I thought about it and had told him that I'll ask you this question, he would have brought the documents to the studio. Because we didn't know, the documents didn't come, viewers lost the opportunity to clearly understand what it is. Those viewers who couldn't follow us 2 days later on Thursday, either they traveled or they were busy doing something else, have completely lost the opportunity.
Okay.
That's the reason why you have to sometimes, not all the time, sometimes, tell them some specific questions that you'll be asking
The
them.
way journalists go to meet the president to ask questions, do you think and believe based on this analysis you've done, that the journalist should send questions ahead of time to the president so he prepares before he answers?
I don't understand your question.
If journalists go to meet the president like we do, where the director of communication or information minister will call us one by one to ask questions, do you think and believe same that journalists should send their questions aforehand before appearing to ask those questions? Because that would sound like what happens in parliament.
Well, it's a matter of choice for people. But if I were a communications person, I would think that yes, for a president who is dealing with the gamut of issues, if he calls a press conference, yes, people must tell him what they're going to ask him. So he's ready for it.
Before.
Yes, but what do you gain by not telling him? Tell me, what do you gain?
You want to test whether he is on the ground.
What does that mean?
It means that you want to be sure whether the president is aware.
So you're going to ask the president that how many district hospitals have you constructed? You don't tell him. You show up and ask him. That is why the president at the one of his press conference, they asked him something about football, and he said, "Oh, he has not prepared for it."
No.
So you think that it's better for you not to ask him, not to tell him, so he doesn't have the documents with him, and then that way you are testing whether he's on the ground.
I would keep my questions if I believe they are a question of a national character the president should be in the know of. I would keep that question and ask him.
But the ones that the president should be in the know of is obvious. It's fundamental. It's not something that people would dispute about.
So if
you want to get a critical press conference out for people to see real issues, the president must have the documents. Is he going to lie about documents?
No, but if the president has promised that I'll build 88 hospitals, let's say next year there's a press briefing like that, before the president shows up before journalists, he should know that unless these journalists are sleeping, they would ask a question about that. He should be prepared. He shouldn't say...
Yes, but he can't prepare. He's going to meet 17, 20, 30 journalists. He can't prepare for all. You see, I don't believe in that. I believe in journalism. That is intellectual. I don't believe in journalism that is ambushing. If the documents don't lie... So we used to sit in this city newsroom. We don't talk to anybody. We take the budget of 2003, take the budget of 2004, and run analysis on it.
Okay.
It's information. You can ask the president that, Mr. President, I'll be asking you that in the 2004 sessional address, you said this. It is in your paragraph 34. Look at it. I'll be asking you that paragraph 34 of your 2011 sessional address actually contradicts your paragraph 30 of 2012. You have told him.
Okay.
So why don't you want to tell him that? Why do you want to ambush him?
You are a journalist, correct? Of course, you are a journalist.
People should make that determination. I don't know.
Okay, I'm asking this question for two reasons. One, you were serving on the National Communications Authority Board. Are you still serving?
Well, all boards have been terminated in January, according to a letter written by the chief of staff.
So you served for the last... Yes. Oh, good. For Absolutely. 4 years. You were you were working there under a board that has a minister in charge.
Somebody sends me a text to tell you that CNN set out to push Trump away. Fox set out the same for the Republican. No. Sending questions of a briefing is actually the standard in America. A journalist says, I should tell you, Sanda. It says sending questions ahead of the briefing is the standard in America.
Which journalist is this, please?
I can show you his name. Maybe he doesn't want his name mentioned.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah. But that is it. So this kind of ambush journalism, I've been against it for a very long time.
If you serve on a board,
NCA, yeah.
If you serve on a board, are you serving in the government?
Well, to some extent, you see, the definition of the government, it's interesting in the 1992 Constitution. And there again, if you're a journalist and you want to understand the definition of the government, you go to the 1992 Constitution. You don't guess it. So if you look at the 1992 Constitution, if you look, for instance, at Article 88, it says that the Attorney General shall be the principal legal advisor to the government. You see, there is a difference between the state and the government, but it's kind of blurry. So the state of Ghana is the constant in the equation. The government of Ghana is the variable. But when the government is in place, it occupies the state. So if you ask this question, I'm not sure different political scientists and lawyers will answer it differently. You can also say that the NCA, the National Communication Authority, is a state institution. And therefore, if you serve with the NCA, you are serving with the state as opposed to the political government.
Okay. But you are appointed by a political government.
But that's the point I'm making. That the government occupies the state in the equation.
Good.
The state is the constant. The government is the variable. The government occupies the state in the equation. So the Ghana Armed Forces is the state. But its actors are appointed by the president.
Politicians.
The judicial service is the state. But its actors are appointed by the government. So when Article 88 says that the Attorney General shall be the principal legal advisor to the government, does it mean the government, the political government elected by the people, or does it mean the constant state in the equation?
No,
so it's an argument.
So the reason I brought the NCA thing is, how do you truly hold the government in check when you are in the government?
Yeah, but I'm not. We are dealing with whether or not being the NCA is part of the political government or is part of the state. Have you answered that question?
Yours was a political government.
How is it a political government? The National Communication Authority.
Who put you there?
But that's, so the the Chief Justice is a political.
No. Let's deal with you. Who put you
but
there?
it's the same thing. You can't say deal with me. It's the same thing, Umaru.
No.